JP Brand appears focused and prepared driving through Mercedes Arena. Richard Footman is looking for ways to improve their consistency. Richard Footman is driving through Bilstein Curve. JP Brand is trying to find that extra performance. JP Brand will be happy having put themselves into first in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure they can find a little extra in there.
There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Greg Hofford is looking relatively composed going through Bilstein Curve. Richard Reshka is looking for ways to improve their consistency.
Good question, Lucy. It's all or nothing now. They need to stay focused, hit their marks, and extract every ounce of performance from that car to move up the grid.
Richard Reshka appears focused and prepared driving through Vidal Chicane.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Richard Footman is trying to find that extra performance.
Well, Lucy, they'll need to find those extra tenths of a second by pushing just a little bit harder on the braking and carrying more speed through the corners.
Richard Footman has some work to do as that 134.107 is only good enough for 8th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure they can improve further on that.
It looks like Greg Hofford is getting ready to make their move. They're taking their time to warm up those tires and get everything just right.
Patience is key in these early moments, Lucy, but I have a feeling Greg Hoffard is going to make it count.
Richard Reshka is driving through Bilstein Curve.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the cars speed by.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Jacobus Vasson is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run and get everything just right. The adrenaline is pumping. Peter Geldenhuys is on their out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time. Peter Geldenhuys crosses the start-finish line at the end of their out lap. Peter Geldenhuys is looking relatively composed going through Yokohama S. Jacobus Vasson is up -0.1. Jacobus Vasson is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 0.47 seconds down. Jacobus Vasson has some work to do, as that 128.969 is only good enough for 6th. Greg Hofford is looking for ways to improve their consistency.
Every driver needs something different, Lucy.
Greg Hofford will be happy having put themselves into 3rd in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for them to improve further on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. They need to drive smooth and smart.
JP Brand is trying to find that extra performance. JP Brand will be happy having put themselves into 2nd in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure they can find a little extra in there.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Greg Hofford appears focused and prepared driving through Vidal chicane. Greg Hofford will be happy having put themselves into 3rd in this qualifying session. Philip Van Staden is looking for ways to improve their consistency. Philip Van Staden is driving through Vidal chicane.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Philip Van Staden has some work to do, as that 135.090 is only good enough for 8th.
There's still more time to be had, but I don't know if they are going to find it before the session is over.
Greg Hofford is up minus 0.23.
It's amazing what a little bit of adrenaline and a lot of horsepower can do. Greg Hoffard is just showing us all what they're made of.
Greg Hofford is driving through Vidal chicane and is up minus 0.16. You can feel the tension building. Jonathan Visser is out on track and getting ready to push for their qualifying time. Jonathan Visser is looking relatively composed going through Bilstein Curve. Jacobus Vasson is on their out lap.
They will want to get a good gap established for their first flying lap.
Jacobus Vasson appears focused and prepared driving through Vidal chicane.
I have always...
Jacobus Vasson has some work to do, as that 233.743 is only good enough for 6th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure they can improve further on that.
Richard Reshka is driving through Bilstein Curve. What a performance from Jonathan Visser. They currently occupy 7th on the grid. It's a good spot for now, but other drivers are trying their hardest to put in a better time and push them down the order.
You're spot on, Lucy. Jonathan Visser's current position of 7th is a testament to their skills and determination. Now, they face the challenge of maintaining their position against hungry rivals.
Jonathan Visser is looking relatively composed going through Advenbogen.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
And there goes Richard Reshka, currently in position 5. They've shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still time to improve their result.
You're absolutely right, Lucy. Richard Reshke's current position of 5th reflects their strong qualifying performance. Now, they'll need to strategize and capitalize on this starting position.
Richard Reshka will be happy having put themselves into 5th in this qualifying
Safety car.
session.
Speed 100 km/h.
Richard Reshka appears focused and prepared driving through Yokohama S.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the cars speed by.
Richard Reshka will be happy having put themselves into 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for them to improve further on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower, they need to drive smooth and smart.
OSRW, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The drivers are looking focused out there on the grid. I'm excited for this one, Lucy.
In the second position, we have JP Brand ready to tackle the race ahead.
But they're going to have to be quick out of the blocks if they want to keep up with the top performers.
The third place on the grid belongs to Greg Hoffert, a driver with plenty of experience.
Let's see what Greg Hoffart can do.
Starting from the fourth position on the grid, we have Jamie Nichols. As the green flag drops, keep an eye on Peter Geldenhuis starting in fifth. The green flag is out and we're racing. Time for the drivers to keep their foot down.
These opening moments can make or break a driver's race. Strategy and skill are key to navigating this intense start.
As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field.
Every corner, every lap, and every race is a chance for these drivers to hone their abilities and improve their skills.
The racing is normally closely fought here at NURBURGRING, Sprint, Formula, OSRW. I think we are in for a cracking race. Richard Reshka will be studying the nearby blinders and looking for anything that could give him an advantage. Every lap is an opportunity for Jacobus Basson to learn just a little bit more to shave a few tenths to hundredths off their times.
It's always intense racing here at NURBURGRING. Sprint, Formula, OSRW, hold on to your hats, folks.
This is a thrilling battle as Peter Geldenhuis edges closer to Jacobus Basson in their fight for P6. The action is heating up here as Jonathan Visser is in 8th, defending from Joni Geldenhuis, who is only 0.4 seconds away.
Surely they've got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Richard Footman is chasing Philip Van Staden in P10.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Richard Footman needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Look at that, Peter Geldenhuis is hot on the tail of Jacobus Basson.
It's a game of strategy now as Peter Geldenhuis hunts down Jacobus Basson. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Oh, this is getting intense. Joni Geldenhuis is just a few car lengths behind Jonathan Visser.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
Peter Geldenhuis is giving it their all as they chase down Jacobus Basson in P6. What a move! Peter Geldenhuis has moved up to 6th. In your experience, John, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Lucy, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
The pursuit is on. Peter Geldenhuis is closing the gap on Jacobus Basson, determined to claim P5.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Peter Geldenhuis needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Jonathan Visser is placed 7th at the moment. They are hoping to keep their distance ahead of Joni Geldenhuis, who is 0.3 seconds behind. A setback for Jonathan Visser, who has just been passed. Oh dear, Joni Geldenhuys has had an incident. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Peter Geldenhuys in 6th chases after Jacobus Visser. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Peter Geldenhuys needs to find a way to close the gap.
It's a nail-biting race.
Stop the press. Looks like that's a mistake from Greg Hoffert. This could be costly. The delta between Sean Motter in 2nd and JP Brand remains over a second, but Sean Motter is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 20 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
It's going to be tough for Sean Mater, as JP Brand seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Sean Mater pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
The pressure is on for Jonathan Visser as they try to catch up to Joni Geldenhuys.
Jonathan Visser is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
Fantastic move from Jonathan Visser, who has just gained a position.
That's what we like to see. Jonathan Visser is really showing their class today.
The tension is building as Philip Van Staden trails behind Jonathan Visser. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Jonathan Visser is pushing to maintain the lead, while Philip Van Staden is working to close in and challenge for the position. The adrenaline is pumping as Jonathan Visser gets within striking distance of Joni Geldenhuys in their race for 7th. A solid performance from Jacobus Visser, who is holding down 5th.
That's right, they can't afford to make any mistakes or let up in their performance. Every point counts in this championship.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Joni Geldenhuys trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Jonathan Visser. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Joni Geldenhuys tries to reel in Jonathan Visser. But Jonathan Visser is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Joni Geldenhuys needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Jonathan Visser and move up the field.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Jonathan Visser will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Jonathan Visser in 8th determined to catch up. But we know Joni Geldenhuys isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Jonathan Visser is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
The race is heating up as Peter Geldenhuys in 6th closes in on Jacobus Visser. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
This is where experience comes into play. Jacobus Visser has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Peter Geldenhuys is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
It looks like Richard Reschke is pushing hard to catch up to Jamie Nichols. That's not a small gap, but Richard Reschke has what it takes to challenge for the position.
That's right, Richard Reschke in 4th knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Jamie Nichols is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Peter Geldenhuys in 6th chases after Jacobus Visser. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Peter Geldenhuys needs to find a way to close the gap.
It's going to be tough for Peter Geldenhuys, as Jacobus Visser seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Peter Geldenhuys pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
The gap between Joni Geldenhuys and Jonathan Visser is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Joni Geldenhuys to even allow Jonathan Visser to get a look in.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Peter Geldenhuys, who is currently in P6. But Jacobus Basson is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Peter Geldenhuys.
Absolutely, Peter Geldenhuys in 6th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
The gap between Jacobus Basson and Peter Geldenhuys is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Jacobus Basson to bring Peter Geldenhuys into play. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Peter Geldenhuys trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Jacobus Basson. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Peter Geldenhuys in 6th determined to catch up. But we know Jacobus Basson isn't just going to hand it to them on the plate. Peter Geldenhuys is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
Philip Van Staden is placed 9th at the moment. Peter Geldenhuys is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Peter Geldenhuys close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
The delta between Richard Reschke in 4th and Jamie Nichols remains over a second, but Richard Reschke is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 13 minutes left in this session to make that happen. This is where the race gets really interesting. Peter Geldenhuys is closing in on Jacobus Basson. It seems like Peter Geldenhuys has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Jacobus Basson's lap time there. The tension is building as Richard Footman trails behind Philip Van Staden. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Philip Van Staden is pushing to maintain the lead, while Richard Footman is working to close in and challenge for the position.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Richard Footman tries to reel in Philip Van Staden. But Philip Van Staden is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Richard Footman needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Philip Van Staden and move up the field.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while. Things are going according to plan for JP Brand, who is currently first. He's pulling away. JP Brand is increasing the gap to Sean Motter. You can feel the tension in the air.
The drivers are all focused, putting everything on the line for a chance at victory, pushing themselves and their machines to the limit.
And let's not forget about the incredible machines themselves.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about the kind of engineering and innovation that goes into making these vehicles. But it all comes down to the drivers, who have to be able to handle the power and speed. It's going to be thrilling seeing how this race turns out.
Jacobus Vasson has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Peter Geldenhuys. I expect their only hope at this point is that Peter Geldenhuys makes an error.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Jacobus Vasson is going to have to get more serious with practice if they don't want to be outclassed on the circuit.
A strong showing from Sean Motter, who is currently second. Sean Motter could be on a charge here, John. They have just put in a quicker lap than Jamie Nichols. We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. John, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Jacobus Vasson trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Peter Geldenhuys. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. Jacobus Vasson needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. John, they have just put in a slower lap than Peter Geldenhuys.
It will be interesting to see if Peter Geldenhuys can keep outpacing Jacobus Vasson.
I love being here at Nürburgring, Sprint, Formula, OSRW. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Lucy, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
Things don't seem to be going Sean Mater's way in this race, as that's a big gap they'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
They certainly aren't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from JP Brand.
In your experience, John, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Lucy, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
It's all about consistency for JP Brand, who is currently first. Impressive stuff from JP Brand, who has managed to pull away from Sean Motter, leaving them in choking in their exhaust fumes. We've certainly seen some of the drivers get it wrong today.
Anyone lost can just follow the trail of skid marks. I hear it's the latest form of GPS navigation.
Let's hope the other drivers don't follow suit. We might end up with a bumper car race instead of a high-speed competition.
At least we'd have something to fall back on if we ever get bored of regular racing. Bumper cars might be the next big thing.
The race is heating up as Jacobus Vasson in 6th closes in on Peter Geldenhuys. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
That's right, Jacobus Vasson in 6th knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Peter Geldenhuys is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
It's looking good for Philip van Staden, sitting in 9th. He can't hold on. Philip Van Staden is losing time to Richard Footman. What do you think, John? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors, Lucy. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
It looks like Jacobus Basson is pushing hard to catch up to Peter Geldenhuys. That's not a small gap, but Jacobus Basson has what it takes to challenge for the position.
It's going to be tough for Jacobus Basson, as Peter Geldenhuys seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Jacobus Basson pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Greg Hoffert, who is currently in P11. But Richard Footman is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Greg Hoffert. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Richard Reschke trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Jamie Nichols. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Every move counts now as Jacobus Basson works to reel in Peter Geldenhuys and overtake for P5.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Jacobus Basson should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Peter Geldenhuys.
It looks like Jacobus Basson is making a move. The gap to Peter Geldenhuys is now— Hold up, breaking info. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. The delta between Richard Footman in 11th and Greg Hoffert remains over a second, but Richard Footman is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 2 minutes left in this session to make that happen. The tension is building as Jamie Geldenhuys trails behind Peter Geldenhuys. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Peter Geldenhuys is pushing to maintain the lead, while Jamie Geldenhuys is working to close in and challenge for the position.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Peter Geldenhuys is not going to give up the position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Johnny Geldenhuys in P6 doing everything they can to catch up.
Disappointing for Johnny Geldenhuys, they now find themselves in 7th.
That's got to hurt. Johnny Geldenhuys will be kicking themselves right now.
A solid performance from Jamie Nichols, who is holding down 3rd.
Definitely Lucy, but they can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep pushing hard to stay in the game.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats. Wait, I don't think that's the fastest way around Nürburgring, Sprint, Formula, OSRW. Richard Reschke has decided to pit. JP Brand is placed first at the moment. Impressive driving from JP Brand, who has managed to extend their lead over Sean Motter. They are walking away at this point, and Sean Motter will have to wait to fight another day.
It's clear that JP Brand is dominating right now. They're making it very difficult for Sean Mater to catch up.
Breaking news, folks. That won't be ideal for Richard Footman. They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. I would not be surprised if these drivers swap positions a few times before the order gets ultimately decided. It's a battle of wills out there, with Joni Geldenhuys trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Jacobus Basson. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish.
This is where experience comes into play. Jacobus Basson has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Joni Geldenhuys is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
It looks like Jamie Nichols is pushing hard to catch up to Sean Motter. That's not a small gap, but Jamie Nichols has what it takes to challenge for the position.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Jamie Nichols in third determined to catch up. But we know Sean Mater isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Jamie Nichols is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Jacobus Basson will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Absolutely, Jacobus Basson.
Breaking update. Peter Geldenhuys is in the pits. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Joni Geldenhuys trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Jacobus Basson. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
It's going to be tough for Joni Geldenhuys, as Jacobus Basson seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Joni Geldenhuys pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
And it's a checkered flag for JP Brand, who crosses the finish line with a commanding victory. What a phenomenal performance, absolutely dominant today. Impressive second place finish for Sean Motter. Well done to Jamie Nichols for securing third place on the podium.
What a drive, well-deserved spot on the podium with that performance.
In ninth, it's Richard Footman. Coming in fourth, we have Jacobus Basson, Joni Geldenhuys, and Philip Van Stadenham in fifth and 10th. Jonathan Visser claims sixth. Seventh sees Peter Geldenhuys. Greg Hoffert take eighth.